Most people think loving to stay home means you're lazy or boring. They assume you're antisocial, disconnected, or missing out on life. If you don't enjoy going out, they believe something must be wrong with you. But what if staying home is actually your mind protecting itself? What if the reason home feels better isn't because you hate people, but because your brain feels safer in calm environments? What if quiet isn't avoidance, but regulation? That idea alone goes against everything society pushes, and that's exactly why it makes people uncomfortable. Let me ask you something honestly. Do you feel relief when plans get canceled at the last minute? Do you feel lighter when you realize you don't have to go out? If that feeling sounds familiar, then this video is meant for you. For some people, staying home isn't about fear or social anxiety. It's about where their energy returns. It's about where their thoughts slow down and their body relaxes. Home is not isolation for them. It's recovery. In today's world, socializing is treated like a requirement. Go out, be seen, be active, be loud. If you don't, people question your lifestyle and your mindset. What they never question is how different nervous systems work. Nobody teaches you that not all minds recharge the same way. Some people gain energy from crowds and constant interaction. Others lose energy fast when surrounded by noise and expectations. For those people, home becomes the only place to reset. That's why this topic matters. Why staying home feels better than socializing for some is not about weakness or comfort zones. It's about how your brain processes stimulation. It's about emotional balance, not avoidance. And the thumbnail says people who love staying at home because that love confuses others. People assume it means you're settling or hiding. They don't see the psychology behind choosing peace over performance. Home gives you control. Control over noise, over conversations, over your time. Outside, you're expected to react, adjust, and engage constantly. Inside, you're allowed to just exist without explanation. This doesn't mean socializing is bad or unnecessary. It means constant socializing can drain certain people deeply. Quiet becomes medicine for them, not escape, and forcing yourself out only leads to burnout. This video isn't about justifying isolation forever. It's not about rejecting people or the world. It's about understanding why peace feels better than plans sometimes, and why that doesn't make you broken. If you liked the video, then subscribe and be the part of our journey, and let's grow together once you understand this. You stop feeling guilty for staying in. You stop forcing yourself out just to meet expectations. You start listening to what your mind actually needs instead of what others expect from you. This is only the beginning, because the real reasons staying home feels better are tied to energy, awareness, and emotional safety. And most people never talk about them honestly. One of the biggest reasons staying home feels better for some people is energy management. Socializing isn't neutral for everyone. For certain people, every interaction costs energy. Conversations, noise, reactions, and expectations slowly drain them, without them even realizing it. When you go out, your mind is constantly working. You listen, respond, adjust your tone, read the room, and stay engaged. Even when you enjoy the people, your brain doesn't fully relax. It stays alert, which becomes exhausting over time. That's why coming home feels like relief. Your shoulders drop, your breathing slows, your thoughts finally stop racing. Home allows your nervous system to calm down in a way social spaces never do. People misunderstand this and think you're being antisocial. In reality, you're being You know how much stimulation you can handle before it becomes overwhelming, and instead of pushing past your limits, you choose rest. Another reason home feels better is predictability. Outside, anything can happen. Conversations can get awkward. Plans can change. Social dynamics can shift suddenly. Your brain has to stay prepared for uncertainty. At home, your environment is familiar. You know the sounds, the lighting, the pace. Your mind doesn't need to stay on guard. That sense of safety is deeply comforting, especially for people who think deeply or feel intensely. This is why some people feel anxious before social events, but calm the moment they decide not to go. It's not fear of people. It's relief from unpredictability. Their mind prefers stability over stimulation. Staying home also removes the pressure to perform. Outside, you're expected to be interesting, responsive, and emotionally present. Even silence, can feel judged. At home, there is no audience. You don't have to smile when you don't feel like it. You don't have to explain your mood. You don't have to keep up energy that isn't there. You're allowed to just be, and that freedom is powerful. This is why staying home doesn't feel empty to some people. It feels full of peace, clarity, and space to think. Socializing can be meaningful, but only in the right amount. When you ignore these signals and force yourself out constantly, burnout follows. You start feeling irritated for no clear reason. You lose patience faster. You feel tired even when you're resting. Home becomes your reset button, not because you're avoiding life, but because you're trying to stay balanced. And balance is something most people never learn to protect. But energy and safety aren't the only reasons. There's something deeper happening in the mind of people who prefer staying home. And that's what we need to talk about next. Another reason staying home feels better for some people is mental depth. Some minds are always active. They think, analyze, and reflect constantly. For them, socializing isn't just talking. It's interruption. When you're out, your inner world gets paused. You stop thinking freely because you're responding to others. You move from your thoughts into external noise, and over time, that constant shift becomes tiring. At home, your mind has space. You can think without interruption. You can process emotions you've been ignoring. You can sit with ideas instead of rushing past them. That mental freedom feels deeply satisfying. This is why some people feel more alive alone than in groups. They're not empty inside. They're full. And socializing can feel like being pulled away from something meaningful. Staying home also gives emotional control. Outside, other people's moods affect you. Someone's negativity, tension, or energy leaks into you. Even if they don't say anything, you feel it. For sensitive or emotionally aware people, this is draining. They absorb the atmosphere without trying to. Home protects them from emotional overload. It creates a boundary between their inner world and others. This doesn't mean they can't handle people. It means they feel deeply. And feeling deeply in social spaces can be exhausting. Home allows them to feel without being influenced. There's also less emotional comparison at home. Outside, you see other people's lives, confidence, success, and energy. Even subconsciously, your mind compares. That comparison slowly creates pressure. At home, that pressure disappears. You're not measuring yourself against anyone. You're not performing your life. You're simply living it at your own pace. This is why staying home can feel grounding. It pulls you back into yourself. It reminds you who you are without outside influence. And that sense of identity is calming. People who love staying home often value depth over quantity. Fewer interactions, but more meaningful ones. Less noise, but more clarity. That preference is psychological, not social failure. But when others don't understand this, guilt appears. You start questioning yourself. You wonder if you're missing out or falling behind. That guilt is learned, not natural. Understanding why home feels better helps you let go of that guilt. It helps you see that your needs are valid, and that leads to a much healthier relationship with both solitude and social life. There's still one more important layer to this, because staying home isn't only about comfort or thinking. It's also about emotional safety, and that changes everything. For many people, staying home feels better because it's emotionally safe. Outside, you're exposed. You're open to judgment, misunderstanding, and expectations. Even small interactions can feel like emotional risks. When you stay home, those risks disappear. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to defend your choices. You don't have to manage how others perceive you. That sense of safety is deeply calming. Some people learned this early in life. They grew up being criticized, misunderstood, or emotionally ignored. Over time, their mind learned that solitude feels safer than connection. Not because they don't want people, but because they don't want pain. Social spaces can trigger old patterns. Being around others brings back feelings of needing to impress, please, or fit in. Even when nobody is doing anything wrong, your body remembers past experiences. Home breaks that cycle. It tells your nervous system that nothing is expected from you. You can relax without being evaluated. You can exist without proving your worth. This is why some people feel anxious before social events but calm once they decide to stay in. The anxiety wasn't about people. It was about emotional exposure. Staying home removed that pressure. Another reason emotional safety matters is honesty. At home, you don't have to hide your mood. You don't have to act upbeat when you're tired or sad. You're allowed to feel what you actually feel. Outside, emotional honesty can feel risky. People may not understand. They may judge or minimize your feelings. So staying home becomes the place where you're most authentic. This doesn't mean socializing is harmful. It means emotional safety is essential. Without it, connection becomes draining instead of nourishing. When people ignore this and force themselves to socialize, resentment builds. They feel misunderstood, unseen, and emotionally exhausted. Over time, they associate people with pressure instead of comfort. That's why staying home starts to feel like relief rather than isolation. It's not about hiding. It's about protecting emotional balance. And that protection is not weakness. But emotional safety alone doesn't explain everything. There's another reason staying home feels better, especially as people get older and more self-aware. As people grow older and more self-aware, their relationship with socializing changes. What once felt exciting can start to feel draining. Not because people are boring, but because your priorities shift inward. You start valuing peace over stimulation, quiet over noise, meaning over movement. Staying home feels better because it aligns with who you're becoming, not who you used to be. Socializing often comes with unspoken expectations. Stay longer, talk more, be energetic, be interested. When you're younger, you push through this easily. As you mature, your tolerance for forced energy drops. At home, there are no expectations. You don't owe anyone enthusiasm. You don't need to match anyone's pace. Your time is yours, and that freedom feels priceless. Another reason staying home feels better is clarity. When you spend time alone, your thoughts organize themselves. You reflect more. You understand yourself better. That clarity becomes addictive. When you're constantly around people, your inner voice gets drowned out. You react instead of reflect. Home gives your mind space to catch up with your life. This is why many people feel more focused and grounded when they spend time alone. Their decisions feel clearer. Their emotions feel more stable. Staying home supports mental clarity. There's also a shift in how you see relationships. You stop needing constant interaction to feel connected. Quality matters more than frequency. A few meaningful conversations feel better than many shallow ones. Because of this, staying home no longer feels like missing out. It feels like choosing intentionally. You're not avoiding life. You're curating Italiano. People who don't experience this often misunderstand it. They think staying home means shrinking your world. In reality, you're refining it. This stage is often misunderstood as laziness or isolation. But psychologically, it's a sign of maturity. You know what drains you, and you choose accordingly. Staying home becomes less about comfort and more about alignment. Your environment, matezi, your inner state, and that harmony feels better than any night out. But even with maturity and clarity, there's still a balance to maintain. Because staying home too much can quietly turn into something else if you're not careful. Staying home feels good, but it can slowly turn into avoidance if you're not aware. There's a difference between choosing peace and hiding from discomfort, and that line is easy to cross without noticing. When staying home is intentional, it restores you. When it's driven by fear, it limits you. The behavior looks the same on the outside, but the psychology underneath is very different. If you stay home to recharge, reflect, or protect your energy, that's healthy. But if you stay home to avoid rejection, conflict, or vulnerability, something deeper needs attention. Avoidance often feels calm at first. You feel safe. You feel in control, but over time, that safety becomes a cage. You stop growing in areas that require interaction. This is why some people feel peaceful, but empty at the same time. They're rested, but disconnected. Comfortable, but unfulfilled. That contradiction is a signal, not a failure. Healthy staying in still leaves room for a meaningful connection. You choose people carefully. You engage on your terms. You don't disappear completely. Unhealthy withdrawal cuts you off from support. You stop reaching out, even when you need help. You convince yourself you don't need onion when, in reality, you're just tired of being hurt. Awareness is what keeps staying home healthy. Asking yourself why you're choosing it matters. Are you listening to your needs or running from discomfort. There's no shame in preferring quiet. And there's no weakness in needing people either. The goal isn't to stay home forever or force yourself out constantly. The goal is balance. Knowing when solitude heals you and when connection challenges you in good ways. Growth requires both. Understanding this difference changes everything. It turns staying home from a habit into a choice. And choice is where real strength comes from. Now there's only one thing left. Bringing all of this together into one clear message you can actually live by. Staying home feels better for some people because their mind and body are asking for balance, not isolation. It's a response to overstimulation, emotional pressure, and constant expectations. When the world feels loud, home becomes the place where you can finally breathe. This doesn't mean socializing is bad or unnecessary. It means your nervous system has limits, and ignoring them comes at a cost. Learning when to step back is not weakness. It's self-respect. The real lesson is to stop judging yourself by other people's standards. Some people thrive in crowds, others thrive in calm. Neither is superior. They're just different ways of staying healthy. If staying home helps you think clearly, feel emotionally safe, and recharge your energy, then it's serving a purpose. But if it starts cutting you off from growth and connection, that's when reflection is needed. Ask yourself honestly why you choose to stay in. Is it to protect your peace or to avoid discomfort you haven't faced yet? That answer will guide you better than any advice. You don't need to force yourself out to prove anything, and you don't need to hide away to be strong. The goal is to move between solitude and connection with awareness. If this video made you feel understood, take a moment and reflect. Write your thoughts in the comments. Not for validation, but for clarity. Putting it into words helps you understand yourself better. Like the video if it gave you perspective. Subscribe if you want more psychology that speaks to real life, not surface-level motivation. And remember this, choosing peace is powerful, as long as you don't abandon connection completely.